No, no, couple. Am I?
There's two different.
That's extension.
This is extension of hours. Special ones. This is the hours. Yeah, the one that's looking at all letters.
I guess I didn't.
That's confusing because it's two issues related to the same list.
Call me a son of a bitch.
I'm meeting with the new president next week, so we'll see how that goes. You know, every time I have,
Something goes south? I mean, souther than,
yeah, so I have to meet with the president.
you mean the last one?
He backed out. It was a really bad relationship.
Well, who initiated this one?
Carol, the new president.
So, and does she want to meet the new president?
Yeah, well, Bernie Dean is old school, you know, been there a long time. So she knows it. Like from the Tias. It is a bit, so she likes it. She likes, yeah, she likes my husband. It's just what I was looking for. If you walk down the aisle, the last big reorganization. Oh.
Taking a 4-hour flight to
Did you forget?
No. See my dad.
Where's your?
88 years old.
All right, more to do.
How is it? Oh, he's fine. He's 88. Pain management, right?
Whoop, glad this wasn't open.
My mom at 82 is the cruise director. She's like, come on, let's go. No, that's not him.
What are we missing?
Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, our invocator was Pastor Tony Pierce. I don't see him. I don't know. He sent a representative. Okay. All right, then, if you'll just join me in a moment of silence. Okay, thank you very much. And roll call, please, Bev?
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Here.
Vice Mayor Leger, I believe is absent. Councilmember DePorter.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Hanson. Councilmember Yates.
Present.
And Councilmember Magazine.
Here.
Thank you. First, I want to announce that item number 7 has been postponed at the request of the town manager. Okay? So now we will go on to our next item, which is economic development. And we will go on with my report for EDC, and I will explain about our MAG Regional Council meeting. MAG is conducting a survey of 7,000 households related to travel habits. I know how leery all of us are about surveys, not knowing which are real. This one is, so if you are contacted, they will identify themselves as Maricopa Association of Governments, and your input would be very valuable in determining future transportation needs. Make sure you tell them we don't have any transportation and we need it. During the famous dust storm, we all remember that, nicknamed the Haboob, the EPA demanded information verifying that Arizona did not cause this enormous dust cloud. Please silence your cell phones. Thank you. A 2-foot-high stack of documents later, the EPA accepted the fact that we live in a desert and dust storms do happen in nature. However, an outside law firm is suing, nevertheless challenging the EPA rulings. Unfortunately, your tax dollars will have to be used to fight this frivolous lawsuit. MAG is doing a study to locate alternate freight routes around Arizona. I expressed my concern that these routes could bring truck traffic into our smaller municipalities, and we certainly don't want any more of that. I was assured of 2 things. The first is that the alternate routes would only be used if the current ones were unavailable. And second, and most important to us, is that the alternate routes chosen would not be considered if the town opposed them. Just another issue we have to be on top of for the future. Again, we discussed the new EPA regulations, reducing the 8-hour ozone standard from 0.075 to 0.07 parts per million. While no one has objection to have clean air, the EPA counts vegetation ozone as part of our problem, which in our state accounts for 58% of the ozone. To show you how ridiculous that is, I asked, if we cut down the Tonto National Forest, would we get a reduction in ozone count from the EPA? And I was told yes. We're also still fighting the transport ozone, which is ozone that the EPA is holding us responsible for, regardless that it's being blown here from California or Mexico. To put that in perspective, if a company is downwind from a factory either in California or Mexico, thus increasing the ozone count over the Arizona business would not be able to expand until the level is reduced and could face fines, even though the Arizona business has no control over the air blowing its way. Just keep fighting this. Doesn't make sense, but that's the EPA. That is my EDC report for today. And now I'll go to call to the public. Do we have any call to public request speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor. Paul Getty, followed by Lena Belliner.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, my name is Paul M. Getty. Excuse me. My name is Paul M. Getty, full-time resident and property owner of in Fountain Hills. I have been advised that the proposed resolution, item 7 on the regular agenda, regarding Fountain Hills' right to vote in SRP elections will be tabled tonight, so I want to affirm and explain 2 things. Number one, my proposed resolution is a citizens' rights issue, not a solar advocacy attempt. Last May, I advised this council that in order to achieve SRP Power District voting rights and representation for Fountain Hills, it will take action by the state legislature. I was told by SRP in writing that the Board of Directors themselves could not expand the 1937 SRP district boundaries. Number two, there have been rumors circulating that I have ties to the solar industry. That is false. I have absolutely no ties to the solar industry whatsoever. In closing, our town council should advocate for our citizens to have voting rights and representation on SRP's Electric Utility Board of Directors. Just as SRP has government relations representatives that try to influence the town of Fountain Hills. I look forward to the proposed resolution being on the next agenda, April 21st, for discussion and possible direction to the staff. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Getty. Who's next?
Lena Belliner.
Madam Mayor and members of council, it is with a sad and heavy heart I stand before you this evening to bring public an incident that took place nearly 1 year ago. On June 19th, 2015, Allen Magazine somehow obtained my personal and private cell phone number. He called me twice. On the second attempt, he willfully and wantonly threatened me and my family and ordered me not to, quote, challenge him on making good on his threat. And before allowing me to respond, he hung up. He did so because I dared to question and determine which member of council threatened the Extended Hands Food Bank with defunding and trying to force them out of town. Magazine was that person. In a letter I later obtained through Freedom of Information dated June 13th and written by Pastor Iverson and his board of directors, and I quote, "Unfortunately, the negative conversation he had with me and his threats concerning our operation lead us to the decision to terminate our contract for the next fiscal year. I dared to question and still question who would ever attack such a worthwhile organization as our local food bank. They have been a long-standing business helping hundreds of needy families who struggle daily to make ends meet and feed their children." The letter further states, and I quote, "On his behalf, someone or something apparently got to him, and he has since come and apologized." Apparently, Magazine was told that no one single member of council has the right to dictate policy, nor has the ability to represent the council as a whole. Magazine's threat left me horrified, shaken, and emotionally distressed, and still does. After several weeks of thoughtful consideration, I decided that I needed to file a formal complaint. On July 6th, I sent a detailed email to the town manager. I simply wanted an apology and for Magazine to acknowledge his behavior. He refused. The town hired a mediator hoping to mediate the issue. So on August 27th, I met with the mediator. Magazine refused. That refusal reluctantly forced me to move forward with a formal complaint, wherein I was required to detail which of the town code of ethics he had violated. Months passed, still no apology. Then the town hired a retired Court of Appeals judge who was currently working as an ethics hearing officer. Magazine reluctantly met with him. On November 27th, Judge Cecil Patterson opined in a 7-page memorandum that Magazine did violate 4 provisions of the town code of ethics. His findings sustained that Magazine's behavior was, and threat was, cryptic, harsh, and offensive. His abrupt manner did not ensure that government was conducted openly, efficiently, equitably, and honorably. His behavior did not safeguard public confidence in the integrity of town government. The letter's spirit and intentions incorporated in the Code of Ethics which all elected officials are required to sign, was missing throughout his conduct. There was nothing fair or courteous in his manner, and that the substance of his threat was not intended to pass along any information. He was merely rude and harsh. He exercised poor judgment, and the harshness of his threatening words evoked specters of malice, vindictiveness, and retribution, and yet still no apology. Next, the magazine matter was discussed in closed session, wherein I was not allowed to participate. Now, I have a little disagreement with this step. It is my understanding that executive sessions are used for personnel matters, in other words, for paid employees. And because Magazine is not an employee of the town but an elected official, I feel this matter should have been discussed in an open setting. However, I'm grateful and thankful to this council for taking this matter seriously and trying to help resolve it. The consensus of that closed session was that Magazine was asked, and I'm using the town manager's words, to make it right and apologize. So in January of 2016, there was an attempt to set up a meeting. Unfortunately, that meeting was delayed due to my having a dangerous fall, resulting in a concussion and other health issues. So we met just a few weeks ago. Sadly, the long-awaited meeting was made into a mockery by Magazine. His repulsive behavior exemplified the disdain he has for the town code of ethics, the process of conflict resolution, his colleagues and town staff. The meeting lasted a mere 5 minutes, wherein he once again insulted and made me feel threatened. I stood up, excused myself from the meeting, and told him that he should be ashamed of himself. At which point he responded, "You should be ashamed of yourself." I remember thinking, for what? Further, I thought of how disgusting he was acting and how he brought the dignity of his elected position to a new low. Unquestionably, Magazine lacks the decency and respect for those that trusted in him by voting him into office. Such entitlement, arrogance, and pretension. My parents left Italy with 3 small children, ages 2, 4, and 6. I was the 4-year-old. We arrived legally and with much love and excitement for our new homeland. If they were alive today, they would be heartbroken to see what this country has become, as well as repulsed by the bullying and smug behavior of some elected officials. In my opinion, humility is hardly ever mentioned in tandem with public service, and I believe it should be the first principle so that public service is both genuine and sacrificial. Furthermore, humility in politics means accepting that one person doesn't have all the answers, while recognizing that working in partnership is progress. Timothy Keller wrote, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less." Those who serve with true goodwill generally do not fall into traps of entitlement and pride. More individuals of such character need to be serving the public, a lesson Magazine could well learn, albeit late in life. Lastly, I want to thank you, Madam Mayor, and members of the council and town staff who worked hard in helping to resolve this issue, and request that this incident be placed as an agenda item in hopes that the town code of ethics could be amended to include a provision requiring open discussion of such violations, a public rebuke, and required apology by the offender. Honest, open, and transparent government is to be heralded. As we all know, politics has become a nasty and vicious business. However, it does not have to be that way. As a community, we can demand higher standards from those we elect as our leaders. Sadly, our community does have a history of elected officials with deplorable behavior, leading up to and including Magazines. We must never allow rogue elected officials to be above the law and our code of decency. If we do not demand accountability, chaos will ensue. With some minor changes, our code of ethics, Fountain Hills can be a leader in this regard. In closing, attempting to silence anyone's freedom of speech, to discuss community issues by threatening and abusing the power granted by the voters is unacceptable, Mr. Magazine. to threaten and bully residents by imposing by fiat your beliefs and opinions is the worst kind of judgment. That is not how a democratic representative government works, and you should know better. Every possible courtesy was extended to you by everyone involved, hoping that you would be a man, accept your responsibility, and make it right. And yet, it is nearly 1 year and still no apology. All I ever wanted was a simple apology. And I promise that I will never forget your threat. And I promise you that I will work to make sure such behavior is never, ever inflicted on anyone else. Thank you.
And
Mayor,
just-
would you
just-
explain the rules of
excuse
procedure,
me.
please?
You're out of order. Just for the record, because of the length of time and everything that Ms. Belliner has been through, she had requested to me that she have extra time to finish her statement. And as I normally do when someone comes and requests it and it seems reasonable, I granted it. That's why she has extra time.
Mayor, would you please explain the rules of procedure? Meaning I can't respond.
I believe that you can respond to criticism. Andrew, am I correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Magazine, under the state open meeting law, the provision on public addresses, such as the one that was just rendered, are that you're not allowed to respond to enter dialogue, but there's a caveat that allows you to respond to criticism in such session.
Mayor,
Councilman Magazine?
I just wish I had had known about this and brought the notes with me that I used in executive session. Ms. Belliner has grossly embellished the situation. Not only embellished, she has fabricated much of this situation. Things like threatening her family are absurd. Shouting at her, she was the one that shouted at me when I called her and said, "How'd you get this number?" etc. This stuff about the food bank is totally false. It's absolutely totally false. Not only do I not want the food bank to leave town, I'm a supporter of the food bank, and in fact, when it came before us as part of the budget, I indicated that I had had coffee with the head of the food bank, was doing my due diligence for the budget, asked him a series of questions, which he answered. I asked him to send me their budget if they would. I asked him if he would send me some other materials. I then went back to council during the budget deliberations, indicated that I had a meeting with this individual and that I was satisfied by the answers he gave me, and voted my full support of $23,400 for the food bank. So this has been blown so out of proportion. One last thing, because I could go on for a long time. Ms. Belliner read some of the excerpts from the retired judge's opinion. It was really interesting to me, and we each spent, I don't know how long she spent, I spent over an hour with him. It was really interesting to me that the first page of what he sent us was labeled facts. Those so-called facts were 5 quotes from Ms. Belliner. Now, what happened, how he was taken in by this, I have no idea. But he used those so-called facts, which were her quotes accusing me of things, as the basis for his findings. First of all, I did nothing improper. Ms. Belliner went on Facebook and accused me, without asking me or talking to me, she went on Facebook and indicated that I, in fact, wanted the food bank to be sent out of town, and she said, at least twice, he ought to be ashamed of himself. He ought to be ashamed of himself. The food bank is so wonderful. But she never bothered to call me and get any of the facts. She decided to just go on Facebook and defame me. And so when I called her, and by the way, I'm a big boy. I can handle, sidetrack. When I did call her, it was very interesting because she said, "How'd you get my number? How'd you get my number?" And I told her that if she continued with these kinds of posts, which were defamatory, I would sue her for defamation. You know what her response was? "And I hear you want to raise taxes." Huh? Now, what does that have to do with anything? Now, if she wants my position on taxes, I'll say it publicly, and I've said it before. I'm in favor of a primary property tax. This town is running a $6 million cumulative deficit through 2020. Yes, I'm for raising taxes. In my call to her, I said, if you continue with these kinds of posts, I will sue you for defamation. And then she said, and I hear you want to raise taxes. And I said, Lena, don't test me. Have a nice day. I did not just hang up. I said, have a nice day, and I hung up. Some of the things she's claimed are so off the wall, they are in her imagination. And I don't know where to go with this. In fact, I'm not going anywhere with it.
All right. Any other calls to public? Okay, let's go on to our consent agendas. We have 5. Can I have a motion to approve as written?
Mayor, so moved as written.
And a second?
Second.
And I need a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Councilmember DePorter,
Aye.
Councilmember Brown,
Aye.
Councilmember Yates,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson, Councilmember Magazine, Mayor 6-0.
All right, thank you. Regular agenda items. Consideration of accepting a donation of a bronze sculpture titled Aviator with placement in Fountain Park. Grady?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, we're excited tonight to report on a donation of a bronze sculpture entitled Aviator. Our Community Services Director, Mark Mayer, will give a brief report on this.
Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council. As the city manager indicated, the request is coming from the Public Art Committee for a bronze sculpture by Colorado artist George Lundeen. The donors of the piece, who you may remember, have also contributed a piece, Fred and Ginger, that's located adjacent to the amphitheater. This particular piece, which depicts, as you can see in the picture, a World War II aviator, is valued at $6,000, and the donors are Walter and Betty Martin. It'll be placed, if the piece is approved, adjacent to the Veterans Memorial, which we think is an ideal location for this particular piece. So I've also included in your packet the letter from the Public Art Committee, as well as a site map. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? I think, how tall is this? I guess it says in here.
It's a relatively short piece. It's 36 inches, I believe, 38 inches high, 32 inches wide, which a lot of that is associated with the piece that juts out, as you can see, and 13 inches deep.
So is this going just right into the ground, or is it going to have a base, or
Yes, it'll be placed on a pedestal.
on a pedestal? Oh,
Yes.
pedestal. Okay. Any questions?
Mayor, similar question.
Councilman
Mark,
Yates.
thank you. Beautiful piece, and as always, the art committee, thank you so much for all the work you do. Any danger with a propeller sticking out like this?
No, I've been reassured that it's not a sharp piece of that, and so it's also, by the time you put a base at the bottom of it, it's going to be far enough in the air that small children, unless they were allowed to climb up on the piece, should not be able to reach it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Are Walter and Betty Martin here, or any
I
representatives?
don't believe so. Both Sandy Thompson and Jerry Miles were not available to come this evening, so, and I don't believe either one of the donors is here this evening.
Representatives. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to accept Aviator.
Second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor 6-0.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, before we skip over item number 7,
Yes.
I realize it's been tabled, but I would like to request that it go on the agenda at sometime in the next 3 agendas upcoming.
Okay,
So noted.
so noted. All
Thank you.
right. Thank you, Councilman Brown. And we'll go on to item number 8, consideration of an appeal of the administrative issuance of a temporary use permit allowing the Carpawin Resort to conduct wedding events and receptions both inside the resort and on the outdoor event lawn after 10 p.m. Grady?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Bob Rogers, our senior planner, who also serves as our zoning administrator, will be addressing this particular item along with the next 2 agenda items. With that, Bob.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council.
The application is an appeal by Kimberly Anderson and others of the administrative issuance of temporary use permits to the Copperwind Resort that allow wedding receptions and similar facilities and functions to provide outdoor entertainment and other activities after 10 p.m., most commonly until 12 midnight. This is the site plan, which has accompanied the majority of the past requests. The event lawn, where the majority of the events occur, is circled. As you can see, it's on the northwestern edge of the property. The nearest residence is approximately 253 feet to the east, which would put it right about over here off this map. This is the lawn. Temporary use permits for events at Copperwind have been issued by me since 2005. Prior to 2005, I'm assuming that my predecessor issued them. In 2013, in an effort to promote events and similar activities, council amended the zoning ordinance to allow the administrative issuance of the permits. Included in that amendment was the provision that said if someone objects to the permit being issued, the staff is required to stop issuing them until the appeal can be heard and decided upon by town council. And that's why this is before you tonight. This is the first time I've received an objection to issuing an administrative permit for any event at Copperwind since I began issuing them in 2005. I made a copy of a typical permit cover sheet. That's what you see on the screen. As you can see, the activities involved, the date and the hours of the event, and the condition that the neighboring condominiums be informed are clearly listed. And the resort has been very diligent in making sure that any event that might go beyond 10 p.m. got this permit. Staff has come to the opinion that the occasional wedding reception or outdoor party at the resort is not detrimental to the surrounding area. While music and event activities will very certainly be audible on occasions, they don't rise to the level of annoyance that should negatively affect the resort's business operations. Events are typical activities in resorts. A 10 p.m. curfew most of the time is probably reasonable and appears to be the case here as well. However, there are times when the resort hosts events that need to go later. Not allowing that to occur would seem to be counterproductive. Staff recommends that council deny the appeal and approve the continued issuance of the administrative temporary use permits for Copperwind's events, subject to the standard conditions that have been applied in the past. That concludes my presentation. The applicant, or the appellant, is here, and she's indicated that she can explain her appeal, and also representatives of Copperwind Resort are here and would like to make a presentation as well.
Can I just have a question for you, Bob, before you give up the podium? You said occasional wedding receptions. So how many do they usually have a month?
Generally, well, if you want to do an average, I'd say 2. It can average between 1 and 3, and in the summer, there's nothing. But in the cooler months, this last month they had 3. The month before that, they had none.
But there's no rule about it. I mean, generally, they could do it every weekend if
They could,
if
as
they
long as
had,
they came and got the
if
permit.
they had the
yes.
business, it would be every weekend. There's no limit. Okay. Councilman Hanson?
Just real quick, since you've been issuing these since 2013,
2005.
huh?
2005.
For this particular venue.
2005. In 2013, I was allowed to issue them administratively.
Thank you. And no one has ever had a problem before? Do you have any idea why now all of a sudden it's a problem? If they've been having these events?
I hadn't gotten complaints up until this point. So, I mean, I guess that's up to these people to explain why.
Thanks.
Councilman Magazine?
Yeah, Bob, do you know if any of these weddings, receptions, whatever they are held entirely outside on the lawn?
I think it's a combination of inside and outside. Most of the time, the reception or the lawn party is after hours, yeah.
Would you put the schematic back up on the location map? I just want to get a better understanding. I can't read the writing on here. What is it that's circled?
That's the event lawn. That's where the outdoor activities generally occur, where they set up the tables and the dancing.
Okay, and where are existing homes?
This is the resort we're looking at on this. The nearest are the condominiums, which are in this area here. About 253, I think, is the closest one, which sits just to the other side of the tennis courts.
And what are we seeing?
This is the pool, this is
No,
the
I'm
pool,
sorry.
this is the tennis court.
I'm sorry, toward the left-hand corner.
This here,
Yeah,
this is part of the resort, Copperwind.
that's part of Copperwood. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Yates?
Along the same lines, Bob, the 3 a month, all 3 are usually over 10 o'clock? Or I guess maybe the question is, how many,
The only time they need a permit is if they're going to go past 10.
I guess what I'm saying, how much volume do you do annually since 2005, would you say?
I would say it's usually 1 or 2 a month. This last month it was 3, like I said, but the
Okay,
month before
so the
that it was
majority
0.
of them, the majority of them,
I'd say 2. 2 is, if you're looking for an average, about 2 a month,
out of the 3?
other than the summer months.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else before I bring up the first speaker? Okay. Bev?
That would be Kim Anderson.
Okay.
Madam Mayor and fellow council members, I'm just going to read my comments.
Sure.
My name is Kim Anderson, and I'm a homeowner in the villas at Copperwind in Fountain Hills. I recently filed a complaint with the town of Fountain Hills after calling Copperwind Resort on numerous occasions to inquire about excessively loud music. During their outdoor events, I can hear every song they play inside my home. The resort's response was essentially that they were sorry, but they had permission for these events from the town of Fountain Hills. Their response felt dismissive and indifferent. I have 2 concerns about the resort's excessively loud outdoor music. The first concern is the music playing after 10 p.m. The previous resort owners did not play loud music after 10 p.m. The resort property is adjacent to 108 condominiums and numerous single-family homes, all of which are impacted by the loud music. The most offensive part is the pounding bass sounds from the subwoofers. Think of the last time you were stopped at a stoplight and heard a boom, boom, boom from a nearby car that instantly gave you a headache. I think we all feel a sense of relief when the light turns green and we can escape that loud pounding noise. This boom, boom, boom sound is what permeates the inside of my home when the resort hosts an outdoor music event. The event lawn and the pool area, where the outdoor music is played, is located behind the resort building and adjacent to the nearby canyon and mountains. As many of us know, sound travels a great distance in the desert, and this music carries through the canyon and echoes off the nearby mountains. As an example, my home has new Pella windows and doors with exceptional soundproofing, yet I can hear the boom, boom, boom of the resort music in every room in my home. Our outdoor patios are not usable when the loud music is playing. In the evenings, the outdoor music can start anytime after dinner, and in many cases, the music plays until midnight. I routinely go to bed between 9:30 and 10 p.m., and on evenings when the resort is hosting an outdoor event, it is impossible to fall asleep until midnight when the noise stops. This is the case even though we turn on our bathroom exhaust fans and central air conditioning fans in an attempt to drown out the music. The excessively loud music is offensive to the senses, it disturbs the peace and quiet of our community, and it interferes with the comfortable enjoyment of life and property for the homeowners and the winter visitors residing in our neighboring communities. This isn't right, and for all of these reasons, I ask the Town Council to deny outdoor event permits past 10 p.m. at Copperwind Resort. The second concern is how loud the music is in general. Playing outdoor music in the desert mountains is very different than playing music at an inside venue. Add to this the fact that numerous homeowners live adjacent to the music venue, and one can inherently see that extra measures are needed. After filing my complaint with the town, I received a phone call from Bill Hines, the owner of Copperwind Resort. He invited me and my husband to meet with him and his event manager, Nello Best, on the outdoor lawn the following day to talk about this issue. Both apologized to us and expressed a desire to work together to resolve this issue. The following day, on March 30th, after running some informal sound tests, the event manager, and a sound technician proposed the following items to reduce the sound-related complaints. Number 1 is to have all the music speakers face the resort building rather than face the neighboring homes, the mountains, and the canyons. Number 2, the subwoofers must not be used. This will eliminate the most troublesome boom, boom, boom sound of the low frequency sounds. Number 3, the overall music volume should be less than or equal to 90 decibels. And number 4, the music could be moved inside at 10 p.m. Indoor music and dancing could continue until later hours if desired. And again, these 4 recommendations came from a sound technician that was brought in by the resort and the event manager that works at the resort. The event manager suggested that the resort could easily add these 4 requirements to future outdoor event contracts. For the past year, under the new resort ownership, there have been no such requirements imposed on the DJs that come in and play at resort events. There are 2 weddings that are planned this weekend, and my understanding is that these 4 sound mitigating requirements will be implemented at both events to see if these changes adequately address the noise complaints. If these changes prove effective, I would hope they become the standard for all future outdoor events at the resort. I am certainly not opposed to outdoor events at the resort, and I believe there is a workable solution acceptable to all parties. My concern is the general lack of consideration shown by the resort for the neighboring homeowners. As an example, just yesterday afternoon, the resort hosted an outdoor happy hour at the pool, and none of these mitigating sound requirements were in place, so the happy hour music permeates through our community. Homeowners want the resort to be successful, but we also want to be able to comfortably live in our homes and enjoy the peace and quiet of our community. Please keep the 10 p.m. ordinance in effect and support these ongoing efforts to ensure both the resort's success and our community's peace and quiet. And again, I do want to thank Bill and Nella for their efforts thus far. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Before you leave the podium, would you just read those 4 changes you're requesting again?
Absolutely. The first is that all of the music speakers are positioned so they face the resort building. Currently, they're positioned to face the homes and the canyons and the mountain. The second is the subwoofers must not be used. The sound technician did a test where he played music and he had a subwoofer on and a subwoofer off, and as far as the decibel reading and how that sound carries, it makes a huge difference. The third is that the overall music volume should be equal or less than 90 decibels, according to the sound technician. And number 4 is the music should be moved inside at 10 p.m. Indoor music and dancing could continue for later hours, and that shouldn't be a problem.
Just, if I may, just a question now. Setting aside moving everybody indoors at 10, if it hasn't really been tested, how do you know, for example, that being outside from 10 to 12 would be a problem if you instituted these changes you're suggesting?
That's a great question. And if the resort does institute these changes and we see over the next couple days when they have these weddings that it solves the problem, I think that mitigates the issues from beyond 10 o'clock from our perspective. And I'm just speaking as a homeowner that lives there.
Any other questions for, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker? Do we have other speakers?
It's Bill Hines from Copperwind, and then it's Jordan Rose from Rose Law.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and Bob, can you help me? Paul, thank you so much. For your information, I'm Jordan Rose with Rose Law Group, and I'm here with Bill Hines, who's a town resident and owns the Copperwind, and also my planner, Ben Cooper, from my office. Thank you, Bob. And thank you to your staff. We really appreciate them working with us over the past few months on a variety of different things. And we're excited to be here tonight to at least tell you what the Copperwind's been doing. Bill bought the Copperwind about a year ago and has been making significant improvements to the property. I will say the Copperwind is, as you know, 35 rooms, and they really depend on this event business. If they are restricted from doing weddings, the viability of the hotel resort is really, it's detrimental. And so today we're here just asking you to continue what you've done since 2005, which is allow these permits past 10 o'clock at night. And I don't think there's ever been an instance where you haven't allowed that. And so let me just show you what he's done. And it's been a great partnership, and Bill knows from the previous owner that it's been a great partnership with the town. And he's hoping to continue that and would invite you all and everyone here out. I understand the happy hour that Mrs. Anderson spoke about yesterday. It was from 4 to 6, and it was mostly attended by those people who live in the villas right there. Next to the Copper Wind. So Bill is a town resident. He's put over $5 million into the resort in just the last year. And I think I sent you a letter earlier telling you about these improvements, so I won't go through all of them, but I do want to show you in case you haven't been up there. But the updated lobby, it's beautiful. They celebrate the amethyst that's found in the nearby mountains, and have really renovated the world-class spa. If you haven't walked into this facility, you just need to look at it because it makes you not want to be here, right? It makes you want to relax. The hotel rooms are wonderful. He's updated those in a big way. And the fitness facility has been looked at by some fitness experts in the resort business, and they say it's one of the best in the entire nation now. So if you need a good workout, this is a good place to go. So as not to sound like a Copperwind commercial, I want to talk to you about, they're just trying to become even more of a world-class resort, attract more room nights. And as you know, this resort business in Arizona is unfortunately very seasonal, and with 35 rooms, it's very seasonal. And so during the season and the wedding business, it's really crucial. So restricting their wedding business, it restricts their ability to have a successful business, to fill up rooms, which you get bed tax, to attract more visitors to the great town. And the site, I don't have the pointer, but you can see, and you saw in Bob's a graphic, that just sort of to the north of where it says site, oh, thank you, that's okay. Thank you, Councilman. To the north of the site, oh, I do have one and I don't know, okay, is all desert, right? So the closest home to this facility where the weddings are, which is the wedding lawn, is over 250 feet away, but it's separated by a tennis court and 2 swimming pools. And that home has been there, the resort has been there prior to the home being there, and everyone who purchased homes in the villas, I think, probably also purchased because of this great amenity, and they probably looked up and saw this great wedding lawn and thought, oh, my kids, my grandkids, or somebody hopefully can someday have a party here. So it's not such a surprise that a resort would be wanting to have these, especially when they have this beautiful lawn that's clearly for weddings. It doesn't have fields on it. It doesn't look like anything other than a party lawn. And it's been in existence for, 16, 17 years. The housing was developed with the Copperwind. I'm hopeful that all the residents are thrilled that they live next to this great resort and that they moved there because of it, or at least we're happy to be there because of it. So you can reasonably expect resorts to have parties. I live next to a resort myself, and I know what she's talking about, those subwoofers, but they do go off eventually. And I chose to live there because I think my property value is boosted because of that amenity. Special events permits, it's just not new. You've been doing this since 2005. So we're here just asking you to continue something that he certainly expected would continue when he purchased the property, because it really makes a difference. They want to be a good neighbor. And I think, just as she mentioned, as soon as she filed the complaint and we knew about it, Bill called her and went over, and they met on the lawn, and they talked about things that they might do to help mitigate. She talked about 4 things. We haven't seen that report, so we can't necessarily comment on that, but we know that Bill is committed to trying to make this work for the neighbors. He talked about reorienting the outdoor speakers, and they're going to try that, and just, I think as Councilman suggested, try this and see if it helps the situation. So they'll be doing that. Want to continue to work with the nearest neighbors on the decibel levels and see what we can do to make sure that it's as least impactful as possible, but still allows a party atmosphere. And we're more than willing to restrict the outdoor parties to a last call at 10:30 for alcohol, and then the outdoor bar would close and the music would shut off by 11 outside, if that's helpful. to the neighbors. So we just would please allow Copperwind to continue to invest in the town and in the residents and in tourism and to succeed. And I would take any questions now, or I could save some time maybe to comment on any of the neighbor concerns.
Questions?
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Yates?
Could you go back to the, first off, thanks, Jordan, for your time.
no
You're doing-
problem. Thank you.
Go back a couple slides where you suggested last call at 10:30. So these are things that you have in place now or that you're willing to do
Mayor
moving
and
forward?
Councilman, yes, those are things that we thought we could try moving forward and see if that would alleviate some of the concerns. So it's not something we've done. And frankly, we've never had a complaint. They've been doing this for a year, and there hasn't been a complaint. They've been doing this since 2005, and so there hasn't been a complaint. So this is kind of a new thing, and you know, we'll try whatever we can that won't impact the negatively the weddings.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yes, thank you.
Have you talked to any of the residents or the HOA? You know, we got a letter from the HOA saying they didn't want this to go any longer than 10. But have you talked to them about this, that a compromise of 11 rather than 12?
Mayor and members of the council, we haven't. I talked to the HOA's attorney on this other issue that we had, but we didn't really talk too much about this. I think we assumed that we were working with the closest to the site neighbor, and so no.
Because up to this point, we've received complaints from not only the villas, but Portobello and also Sunridge, homes in Sunridge.
Okay, and Mayor and council members, it's something that we've been doing for a decade and more, and so we're just trying to see how we can modify what they've already been doing in a way that would be less impactful.
My guess is that with the improvement in technology, with the way the music goes, you know, it's different to go outside with the music that there was 10 years ago. But I know my son had one of those subwoofers, and that's how I've lost some of my fillings in my teeth. Because those things will really rattle your brain, those subwoofers. So I think it's the new technology that possibly has ignited this objection to the music, because it's not a string quartet, it's not you know, some sort of concert music. It's loud and it's booming, and people are right there trying to watch television or, you know, have a quiet night. So, you know, I can understand that, and I know that of course you want to grow the business, and we also have to take into consideration that this might be every weekend. I'm sure you're hoping that your business is going to be built up, that it's every single weekend. So I think we have to think about that also. Councilwoman Hanson?
These activities have been going on for quite some time, and there wasn't a problem. Then all of a sudden there was. It seems pretty straightforward to identify what the change was. And it sounds like these possible mitigating suggestions could very well be what changed along the way.
Mayor and council members, as we understand it, the subwoofers have been in place for years and years and years. So I don't think it's necessarily that. It may be that I'm sorry?
The placement of them would make a difference.
And Mayor and council member, we're absolutely committed to trying to figure out new placements that'll work. I mean, we hadn't heard any. They've been doing the same thing for a year, at least exactly the same thing, and they just got a complaint. So they don't really know what changed either, except maybe they've been more successful in attracting parties. That's what we maybe gathered. But we're more than happy to try to work with the placement of the speakers and decibel levels and all of those things. There's no intent. I mean, this resort's been there, and it's hopefully will continue to be there for forever, and the neighbors will be there as well, and we just want to try to find a way to happily coexist.
I just interrupt you for a second. I saw some people raising their hand. If you want to speak, just get a speaker paper from the back and just put your name on it and give it to... Oh, you did? Okay. Then you will definitely get your turn to speak, okay? Councilman DePorter.
I would also speculate that it's due to increased activity there. I mean, the hotel, no offense to the previous owners if they're here, is substantially cooler than it's ever been. So good job. And And I really like that you reached out to the residents, Ms. Anderson and others. I think it'd be great to take these 4 points and go back to that same group and see what they think about it, because I do have a lot of respect for I have little kids, so booming in my house would be really bad. So I definitely understand the problem. So I would love to see, similar to what we've seen over at the community center with groups coming together and having issues to work out, seeing if you'd be willing to go back to the group and see what they think about after this weekend's events, what these did for them, and then kind of go back to the drawing board if needed.
Mayor and council, we'd be more than happy to work with them. Bill's he lives in the neighborhood, and he certainly wants to be a good neighbor, so.
Would you be willing to stipulate any of these today, that you would definitely do these and the 11 p.m. as a compromise? Is this something that you're offering us right now?
What, to do these things?
To do the 4?
Yeah.
And a compromise of 11.
Yes, Mayor, yes.
Decibel level is, I can't commit to a decibel level because I don't even know what that would be.
Yeah, the Mayor and council members, the answer is yes. Bill came up with these as things that we would commit to and we will stipulate to. And the only issue is we need to agree upon a decibel level with the sound engineer and neighbors, so we work with them.
But I'm also talking about the items that Kim Anderson mentioned. Speakers facing the building, no subwoofers, music less than 90 decibels, but she was asking for 10 p.m. inside. Are any of those acceptable?
Mayor and council member, those are the first time we heard those, except the reorienting of the speakers. So the subwoofers, I don't think we can commit to that, given that's been around forever, and I don't know that DJs and bands would even, I don't know that wedding parties will want to be there if they can't play music at a decent level. We don't know what 90 decibels is, because we literally just heard about this when we walked in, so we didn't have a sound expert to tell us that. I don't know what that means, so I hate to commit to it. But these things here we can commit to, and I think they're in the same respect.
Councilman Yates?
Madam Mayor.
You know about decibels?
First off, prior to my conservative appearance, I was in the bar nightclub restaurant business, and I appreciate where you're coming from because, like you, I had residents, and even though one of my facilities had been there way longer than most of the residents, but I, like you, sat down with folks and tried to work it out. Prior to my position here, I sat on planning and zoning, and we had talked about our noise ordinance. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that there are still remedies with our existing noise ordinance where residents, if you are disturbed, you pick up the phone and call the sheriff's department, sorry Dave, and they'll go out, and if they hear sound the way it reads now, they'll come and say, hey, could you please turn it down? The decibels is very acceptable, but what's disturbing to one person might not be disturbing to another, and that's why that's kind of even though we say 90, you're right, is kind of the magic number, you don't know. You just don't know. So my only point here is that whatever we come up with tonight, and I know everybody in the room wants you to succeed. I've been to your new restaurant. It's wonderful. The view up there is incredible. But there are other remedies for residents on any given time. As you can, my daughter likes heavy music. I wouldn't dare listen to that, but some weddings might be heavy metal, some music might be country western, so there's other remedies for residents, even no matter what we decide tonight, that, I'm sorry, Dave, you pick up the phone and call the sheriff's department, if they go over and if someone's being disturbed, they're gonna stop by to the facility and say, turn it down. And so that's kind of our safeguard, no matter where we go with it, is all I'm saying. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Magazine?
I hear you, but I had looked into our noise ordinance some time back, not related to this, and what I was told was it's really kind of useless because, certain things like are in the eye of the beholder, well, noise and sound are in, and I don't know if our council has any knowledge of our noise ordinance, or you do?
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to it?
It's if you hear sound.
Well,
that's
And it's
it.
loud.
They can call for
Yeah, if you hear, I'm sorry.
Mayor Kavanaugh,
You could probably quote it better.
Councilmember Magazine, We have, over the years, had many attempts at being more precise at measuring sound, at measuring noise violations, and have been unable to ever make that code anything that's as precise as you would need it for this situation.
Quantify.
That was my understanding, and if I may, what will you be doing? There's a wedding Saturday evening, correct? And what changes will you be making?
Mayor and council member, I believe we're going to reorient the speakers.
Could you come up to the mic, please?
Mayor and council member, maybe I will ask the owner, your resident, Bill Hines, to come up and talk to that because he will be on the ground doing that.
Sure. Hi, thank you. So for the wedding coming up this weekend, and there's 2 of them, we're going to try to do all the things that we listed here. The only thing we might be limited in is in a contract that's already been signed, a wedding contract that was previously signed. If there's any stipulations in it that we can't change, that would be my only limiter. Obviously when I bought the resort, I was aware that we had the ability to go to midnight. It was a key part of buying the hotel. As everybody may or may not know, it's 16 years old and it has yet to make $1. So it has lost money 16 years in a row. It is not viable as a hotel with 32 rooms. But there is a huge opportunity, as we're seeing with other boutique properties throughout Scottsdale and Paradise Valley, to really focus on the event business and the wedding business and drive more people into our small number of rooms and make the property viable. So it was a key thing for me, but when I heard the complaint, I immediately called Kim. Her and her husband came over. They were great. We walked the yard. All we were talking about is stopping at 10. And I said, well, wait, maybe we could go further than that. Maybe we could talk about the sound before 10. So, no good deed goes unpunished. Here we are. But I said, what if we also tried to turn the speakers away? Can I do that every time? If I have 250 people on a lawn that's exactly fit for 250 people, I don't want to get suddenly in a position where I am limited in the events we can do, and I'm suddenly going to start losing business again back to Scottsdale and Paradise Valley, which always did all these events we're stealing. I want the business, but I am committed to the neighbors. So I live in those villas. I can't hear it at all from my villa. Kim bought the closest villa to the wedding lawn. I go, you bought the closest villa possible to an active wedding lawn at a resort and right next to our gate. I'm still going to make it right. And so all I can do is on a wedding by wedding basis, I can try to control where the speakers sit. I can try to control the music so it's reasonable. We can work with the person that we brought in to help do a sound test with Kim was my wedding coordinator. And, we gave her my cell phone number for these events. We gave her Nella's cell phone number for these events. If anything doesn't ever feel right, call us. Make this our problem, and we'll work with you on it. So my goal, and then I never heard anything again, was if I work with you on the events, can we simply make this deal go away? And I'll do last call at 10:30. We'll have the music hard stop at 11 instead of 12. We can still be competitive with that. But if I have to stipulate things that now is going to affect my ability to go out and do these weddings, it seems cumbersome, extremely, extremely scary to me.
Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it certainly does sound like to me that this is a doable situation between the neighbors and the resort. I see both parties trying to work something out, and I feel like that if you continue at the same pace you are now, possibly by the end of the weekend, we might even have a resolve to the issue. I mean, it certainly does appear that the resort has their best hand out, and you have to remember, they've been there longer than the villas have. So if they're making an attempt, I would say let's try to work with them opposed to trying to stir up more trouble. So stay after the inevitable and try to make the neighbors happy, but I also understand that you have to stay in business. So balancing issue, tough issue.
Tough issue.
I think we should have a little cooling off period and see what it's like after 2 or 4 or 6 weddings to see if we can find a middle of the road for everybody. And I understand your dilemma with a contract that's signed. You probably are obligated at 12 o'clock for your contract. And after these two, would you be willing to back those out to 11 at a hard hour of 11?
Yes, absolutely.
So, well, that's meeting them
We're
halfway.
outdoors, and then we just move indoors.
Sure. I think we need to just let them try it and see how it works out.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, we're always much happier when you work things out, and then you come here and you say, everybody's happy, we worked this out. And it sounds like this is just a little bit premature, and that you're on the road to talking with the residents. A lot of the letters said that they didn't get a chance to voice their opinion, and so maybe now, if you can do that, to reach out to everyone, include all of the members, the areas of Portobello especially, that are also near you.
Yes, and I apologize. I didn't know there was a complaint from Portobello. I reached out to somebody else who had filed a complaint, called them twice, and heard nothing back. I called the head of the HOA, never heard back. So I will keep reaching out, and the more people we can get to the table, I think I'll be able to
Councilman Yates?
satisfy them.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Bill, how much time you need to test market some of your ideas?
You know, I can tell you, if you give us 30 days to go through the next weddings we have, because then the season's over virtually anyway. I'm not sure what we even have on the calendar. I think I gave them a copy of our wedding schedule too, so they could kind of see that they're coming to a halt.
Madam Mayor, so by the end of May, the second, or second meeting in May would suffice?
I am sure everybody would feel comfortable that we've done the right thing. The bass thing, that was a real surprise, the subwoofer thing. You know, I'm not a fan of it either, but I'm old. So kids and what music they're listening to at weddings today at the age of 20 or 22 or whatever they're getting married at, it has changed. And maybe that is part of it. And maybe I was even trying to come up with some solutions there to block the back of the subwoofer. I don't know enough about music, but I just feel like we can figure it out. But the music has become deeper bass than when all of us got married.
Yeah.
I mean, without question.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're doing the right thing. You're willing to compromise. I think if I speak for everybody, we'd much rather you came back with a solution, and after you talk to everyone. Did you want to?
I was going to say, Madam Mayor, let's table this till the second meeting in May.
Okay.
Okay.
Any objection?
Do we need a formal, is that okay?
Yeah,
All right,
make
that's
a
my
formal.
motion.
And can I get a second?
Second.
All right. And were there any other speakers that still want to speak? Yes, we still have speakers.
But
Count.
we certainly don't want to stop Bob Rogers from having the ability to issue.
Oh, no.
We want that to continue, and I think that should be part of this motion.
Part of the motion.
Right.
Well, Absolutely, but Madam Mayor, if we table the issue, then the existing process would stay in effect until then.
Exactly. All right, we've got some people that want to speak.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council.
Ken Slynn, followed by Jerry Prokupik.
Ken.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Ken Flynn. I'm Senior Vice President for Brown Community Management, and we manage the Homeowner Association for Villas at Copperwind. I come to you today with 35 years of experience running private clubs and HOAs, and I can tell you that some of the things that were presented to you were misrepresented. And some of those things is that the HOA was contacted about the weddings that were going to take place and the sound that was going to take place and the lateness of the affair. We were not contacted. We were never put in contact by writing or by phone call. The association itself feels that the 10 p.m. quiet ordinance should stay into effect, and the reason is because they feel that granting a variance on any given Friday or Saturday for the wedding events, although they understand they have a business to run, they feel that the event coordinator and the manager, as well as the owner, aren't aware of what issues they're causing for the owners. And I can show you, if I had that map up, that where that pool is, it's not just one building. It's one building with 4 condos and 5 other buildings that go to the left and the right. And so it's more than just 4 owners. It's more like 28 to 42 owners that get affected immediately. as well as the rest of the owners that have condos all the way down the street. So the issue is the issue of sound, when you look at decibel levels, from my experience running at least over 1,000 weddings, okay, I can tell you that if you don't control the DJ, you're not going to control the sound, no matter what. You can have a bride come up and say, I'm going to give you $1,000 if we can keep this going for another hour, and they're going to take it. I can tell you also that you can say they're going to stop serving liquor at 10:30, and unless there's a sheriff there to stop that, it's not going to happen. People are there to party and have a good time for a wedding reception. The problem is there's owners that live in those condominiums that are affected by the noise. Please take that into consideration. The HOA Board of Directors is willing to take this as far as they need to. Thank you.
Jerry Prokupic? Someone submitted a speaker card with a phone number on it, no name. Starts with 805. So you'll be the next speaker.
And just want to stop his time. I just want to comment just to Mr. Flynn. And I did get your letter. As a matter of fact, I have your letter right in front of me. They are willing to talk to you now, so I hope that you, as head of the HOA, will be part of the discussion, since now they are going to be discussing this with all parties.
And Jerry Propchek is the vice president of the board. We're willing to work with them.
Okay.
The issue has been is that some of the things that Kim Anderson brought up were things that the events coordinator was purposely there in place with the sound technician that gave her these ideas as things that they could do to mitigate the sound.
Okay.
But yet Mr. Hines says that it wasn't communicated to him. That's a concern for us.
Okay. Well, now everybody's willing to sit at the table, so I just want to say that, the HOA has the seat at that table also. All right.
Madam
Sorry.
Mayor, council members, my name is Jerry Prokopek, and I live in Fountain Hills. I'm a resident at the villas at Copperwind. I'm also on the Homeowners Association Board of Directors. I'm vice president. I'm here tonight to express our opposition to the granting of a temporary use permit allowing the resort to conduct wedding events and receptions on the outdoor event lawn after 10 p.m. Please note that we do not oppose the resort's indoor activities after 10 p.m., assuming, of course, that it's within acceptable levels. The concern that our community has centers on the loud music, as I think has been pointed out to you, especially after 10 p.m., and that interferes with the quiet enjoyment of our homes. Last October, my wife and I were sitting in our living room watching television when we heard a loud noise, and we thought that it was coming from emergency vehicles in our community. Well, when we went outside, we found out that the noise was coming from the resort. To give you an idea how loud that music was, we live approximately a quarter mile from the resort. And by the way, this was before 10 p.m. And the reason that I mention that is that our community is appreciative of the resort for taking the steps that it has as far as moderating the noise level. We would just like to have the resort take one more step and comply with the noise ordinance as set forth by the City of Fountain Hills. We implore the council not to issue this temporary permit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor.
Councilman Magnuson?
Sir, I had a question. Where'd he go? When were the villas constructed?
Approximately 2000, 1999 and 2000.
And so presumably you moved in knowing that the facility was there, that the resort was there.
Most assuredly, in 2004, we bought.
It's reminiscent of a situation I went through many years ago, wherein I lived in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington. And there's a decision made by the FAA to build a Dulles Airport, which at the time was way out in the middle of nowhere. And they built a road access to it. There was nothing along that access road. There was no development. And then builders started building homes in the area. And there were a lot of complaints about the noise from the airplanes. But I had to ask the question, didn't you know it was an airport? Didn't you know there were flight paths? And I guess I asked the same question. It just makes me wonder.
Of course, I understand. I would reply to you that it's my understanding that the year 2005 was thrown out. This was not an issue until recently, and I mentioned October. And for some reason, whether it's the positioning of speakers or the subwoofers, I don't know, but it has become a problem for us. And if after 10 o'clock it moves inside, I don't think it will be a problem. So
I hope we can all reach a compromise.
I do too.
Thank you. Next speaker? State your name for the record. Thank you.
My name is David Berry. I live in the villas at Copperwind. I'm sorry that
It's okay.
I'd like to speak to a few things. I'm going to change what I was going to say a little bit because some of the comments I've just heard just are giving you the wrong impression of some things. My home is about 400 feet from where I think they normally play their music. That music is very prominent in our lives when they play it. And the comment you've just asked and some others have referred to is why now? Why not 2005 or whenever? The only thing that's changed that I'm aware of is ownership. And since Bill took over, their methodology or practice for weddings has different music in it. So having said that, I'd like to try and get back on track here a little bit. With that in mind, my wife and I acknowledge, and I've told Bill several times, that we really appreciate all he's done with the club in a lot of ways. The exercise room, the club itself, it's a different place than before he bought it. And that's appreciated. And we recognize we're both business people, and a businessman has to make a profit, speaking to your concern. However, when you're neighbors, you have to have some concerns and respect for your neighbors. And I think the experience we've had with the resort since Bill took over kind of violates that trust that your neighbor's going to have some respect for you and consideration. In October, I think probably the same weekend that the previous speaker spoke about, we too were in our home and just well before 10 o'clock blasted out of the house. We're about 400 feet away as the crow flies. Maybe I'm off, I'm estimating, but hope I'm not exaggerating, but I think it's close to that. We went out, and sure enough, the music was up there, and it was loud, and it went, and it went, and I think it was well after 12. The next morning, when I went up to exercise, I spoke to one of the staff. Well, I spoke to 3 or 4 of the staff people. I was hot, because we didn't get much sleep that night. Their comment was, we have a permit. And I said, so what? You know, you have neighbors, you got to be considerate. And I was keeping in mind the town code that says that it's a nuisance and unlawful for anybody, firm, corporation, or person to play music in such a loud or unusual manner as to be offensive to the senses or to disturb slumber, peace, and quiet, or otherwise interfere with and annoy comfortable enjoyment of property or persons. I'm paraphrasing because I'm out of time. I got a lot more to say. Let me just say, I complained. I was blown off. I asked to speak to Bill. He was not available, they said. I asked to have Bill call me. I did that 3 times. Not just, there hasn't been that one event. This thing has happened several more times. I didn't bother complaining anymore because what was the point? Then I found out, the other thing I was told, I'm the only one complaining. I found out from my neighbors, no, they're having the same concerns I do. So I think we have not just an acoustical structural problem, we have a management problem. He's not getting the word when we go up and talk to him. And, you know, this thing with the Kim was talking about the meeting and the 3 or 4 things they could do to change the orientation of speakers and what have you. They had this, it wasn't an event, but I guess it was a happy hour yesterday. I was on the phone with somebody on my patio. He said, I can't understand the words you're saying. What's going on? I had to go in the house because the music was so loud. And, you know, the thing is 400 feet away. I'll give you some idea. That's what I heard, and this isn't a very good representation. This is not the best acoustics, but that'll give you some idea. So it's not an arbitrary thing. It's a very definite thing. And I think that the simple solution to this is to try and do some of that mitigation. I don't think you have to specify, and you might box yourself in specifying what mitigations to take. Because then, if they don't work, they'll come back as, well, you told us to do that. Bad idea. I've seen people get caught up. But I think you've got an ordinance that unless you're going to amend it or change it, I guess you're working on it. But as it stands right now, as I read it, any noise that goes over that property line and bothers me is a nuisance and unlawful. So I think, you know, there's a lot of things we can work together on, but we've got to be honest with each other. There were complaints. Change of ownership was the time that it occurred. And my last comment is they had a special use permit application in for a wellness center. And that was withdrawn for reasons that you know, and Bill wrote in a message to all of us that were members of the club. But the one thing that's consistent is in his message to us when he, as members of the club, that he was pulling that permit application request for that special use permit. His concluding phrase was that he was going to continue to have a first-class wellness destination resort.
Let's not talk about that. That's already.
No, this is not about that.
I know, but your time is like way over.
That's peace, quiet, and meditation, yoga, and things like that. How does loud music fit into that?
We do have your letter. I have it right in front of me. Thank you.
Sorry?
Oh, we did receive your letter, and so, you know.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry I
Okay.
went over my time.
Okay.
There's a lot more to say, but.
I know. We have a lot of other people waiting.
Robert Kraus?
Mayor and Council, my name's Robert Kraus. I'm a homeowner at the Villas of Copperwood. I didn't know that we were turning it into a retirement community when I bought back in 2005, and I hope it's not going in that direction. My wife and myself are in favor of the permit to allow Copperwind the right to have music past 10 p.m. for special events. In order for the resort of this caliber to survive, it needs to be competitive with other venues. Most events hosting some type of music usually play to 11 or 12 p.m., so it does not seem like an unreasonable request to be able to have a permit that allows them to that flexibility. We do think that it is in respect to their neighbors that Copperwind inform the local homeowners of any upcoming events, i.e. emails and even posted notices at the spa and fitness center. We know that there have been noise complaints from local home villa owners who live very close to the resort. We find it difficult to believe that they would buy so close to a resort, spa, restaurant without considering the consequences of living that close. We have to believe that these same individuals love the convenience of being able to access the restaurant, spa, and pool without long walks or even a long drive. You can't always have both. For some of us who live in the villas, we rely on the fitness, pool, spa, and restaurant as entertainment for ourselves and our guests. Most units do not have the ability to put a pool or hot tub on the patios. My wife and I feel that without the club, our villa is no longer a special place, quote, for us to live. Therefore, we are in favor of Copperwind Resort being successful in their business and should be allowed a music event. I know for a fact that if the Copperwind Resort up there doesn't survive in our neighborhood, in Fountain Hills, it is a detriment to our whole being, and it would affect the property that we have. So I think there needs to be flexibility. And from what I've heard, and I don't know these people, I have not talked to Bill, I don't know them. I just know that from what I'm hearing here, there seems to be some flexibility and some things that can be done. To not allow something you've done, I've been here since 2005. I was probably up the same nights. My wife and I go to bed 9:30, 10 o'clock. I haven't heard anything in my unit. I haven't heard anything that would be outrageous. And we've all been young before. And I think the music, just to go back in 1997, it was pretty loud. At least that's the way I still listen to it. So, it is what it is.
It was loud because we could hear better.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's our piece. So, and one other thing I'd like to say, we never really received from our HOA a survey asking our questions. And I think that you need to find out who all really feels, because I was at this party that was out there at the pool yesterday, and it was a bunch of people, mostly from the villas, and it was a hell of a good time. And I didn't see anybody complaining. So I think that number and the fact that the HOA is representing us without me ever getting a survey asking my opinion. So be it. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Next?
That's it.
That's it? All right. Okay, so right now we have a motion and a second, and let me go, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 6-0.
Okay. Thank you all for coming.
Can I get am I expected then to bring this back the second meeting in May?
Yeah.
Are we expecting then to get something from the resort telling us what the measures are going to be?
Or the compromise, we're hoping for just a
You want something in the staff report that is explaining what's happening?
yeah. Yeah, along with
The complainant.
the Kim also to be a part of that. Okay? Okay? Thank you for coming. Okay. Let's give everybody a minute to leave. And then we are going on to number 9. And I am going to open the public hearing. We have one report for items 9 and 10. To receive comments on a special use permit to allow truck rentals by Desert Dog Auto Repair at 9521 Technology Drive, located in the Industrial 2 IUPD zoning district. Grady? And
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our zoning administrator, who will give a staff report on this particular item. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you said, this is an application for a special use permit allowing Desert Dog Auto to rent U-Haul trucks in the Industrial 2 IUPD zoning district. The property is located at 9521 Technology Drive, Unit C3 in the Fire Rock Commerce Park Industrial condos. This is directly behind Target Plaza. And these are aerial photos showing the location. The walled-in area to the rear, which is here, or this area here, is the designated outdoor storage area for the 3 condominium units in that building, which is Building C. This is the area that staff has noted in the recommended stipulations for U-Haul truck inventory storage and/or displays. The parking spaces in the foreground of the bottom picture are common spaces for the Commerce Park and are required to be available for employee and customer parking and are not to be used for outdoor display. Small turnout area in front, which is this, has been designated as the outdoor display area for the trailers only. The trucks being too big, they would block the drive aisle. Planning and Zoning Commission forwarded a recommendation to approve this special use permit, subject to the stipulations that are outlined in your staff report, and staff agrees with that recommendation. And these photos show the property in its current situation, and they are in compliance with the Planning and Zoning Commission's and staff's recommended conditions of a special use permit. You can see the trailers in the little, in the bottom picture. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right,
I
thanks,
believe
Bob.
the application.
The applicants are, yeah,
Here? Yep.
she is here. All right, questions for Bob first. Any questions? Councilman Magazine?
Just a quick question. Is this, are they moving from their present location, do you know?
It's my understanding that the Desert Dog that was on Shea kind of split into two entities. So there's still a Desert Dog out there, and now there's a new Desert Dog here with a W.
I like your accent.
Any other questions? Does the applicant want to make any comment? No? Okay. Laura?
I think this is great. I think it'd be a great amenity to have into our town. I just asked Councilman Brown where that gate is, close to that, and he pointed it out, but I personally think it's a great amenity to have for our residents, to have something they can rent in town.
And we already have great owners of Desert Dog who've been in town for a very long time, Noreen and Al. They've been great neighbors and the property is in, I know I visited there, we had a nice ribbon cutting, and they're just great business people, have been in town for a very long time. So I think I have confidence that this new building will just work great for them, and I wish them success. Anything else other than that? Then I need a motion. Oh, you're right, yeah, I forgot, we're doing this a little differently. Were there any speakers? No. Okay, then I got to close the public hearing first, sorry. Consideration of special use permit as just presented.
Move to approve?
Thank you.
Mayor, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 6-0.
Okay.
Sorry you had to wait so long.
Consideration of cost share agreement C 2016-253 between the Town of Fountain Hills and Chaparral City Water for the Fire Station Number 2 driveway improvements.
Thank you, Mayor. Paul Mood, our Development Services Director, will be giving a report on this particular project and the cost share agreement that has been worked out with Chaparral City Water for the driveway improvements where the new Fire Station Number 2 will be going.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The Fire Station Number 2 project is on the recently acquired property by the town on Fountain Hills Boulevard and Muskrat Drive, which is on Fountain Hills Boulevard just north of Shea. It was previously owned by MCO Properties. The Chaparral City Water has a gate there, and they have been driving across the property for years to access their facilities to the west of the property. When the town took over the property, we entered into a license agreement with Chaparral City Water to allow them to continued use of that gate and driving over the property. But we also put them on notice that there would be a fire station that was going to be going there. So after we did all the presentations to council about the Shea site versus the Fountain Hills Boulevard site, we took a look at it a little bit closer with Chaparral City Water, and where it says driveway, that is actually a 40-foot strip of land owned by Chaparral City Water. It's a separate parcel outside of the town-owned fire station site. So what this agreement will do, it will share in the cost of design and construction of a shared driveway that the town can benefit for the fire station site, and then we'll relocate or put a new gate at the far end of that as well, so Chaparral City Water can access their facilities. Currently, if you go out there, there's an SRP cabinet right where the driveway would go, so that needs to be relocated. There's a pretty good bank there, so you're going to have probably over 200 feet of retaining walls, and there's also a 6-inch and 24-inch water lines that run along that alignment. We don't know at this time, but those need to be relocated vertically to build the driveway. So the cost share will share in the cost of the design, and I'll go over that in the next presentation. And then the architect is putting together a separate bid package for that driveway. So we'll isolate those costs and be able to share in the cost once that's bid out. So with any question, if there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
Questions for Paul? No? Speaker cards? Nope. Okay, then I'll wait for his motion.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 6-0.
Okay. All right, we go on to number 12, consideration of professional services agreement, C2016-250 with Hunt and Caraway Architects Limited for the Fire Station Number 2 architectural services in the amount of $315,197.20. Brady?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mood is going to continue on with this item, which is related to the last item. This is the professional services agreement relating to the design services for the new fire station number 2. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Mood.
Okay, Mayor and council members, again, as the town manager said, this is the architectural contract for fire station number 2. Back in November, the town issued a request for qualifications pursuant to the Arizona revised statutes for qualification-based selection. We had 8 firms respond. We ranked their statement of qualifications. We narrowed it down to 3, a short list of 3. We held interviews. Based on the scoring of the interviews, Hunt and Caraway was selected. We then entered into negotiations of the architectural contract. The contract is for the design of the fire station. This was what was in Hunt and Caraway's statement of qualifications. Has more of a residential feel to blend in with the neighborhood. At one of the public open houses we had with the neighborhood, the town committed to doing neighborhood outreach and having at least probably 2 meetings with the neighborhood and maybe 1 additional council meeting. So we asked the architect to put that into their contract. We also asked them to do, we're going to try to reuse the emergency generator at the existing fire station number 2, which is slightly undersized for this building. So we've asked them to do an analysis of the critical systems and what that can power. So that's included in the contract. As shown, this is about a 9,000 square foot facility, 5,000 feet of fire station, about 4,000 feet of for the 3 bays, and then the rooms for their gear. The highest point above the bays is approximately 27 feet. And then Rural Metro will also have to do a analysis for a height of a tower that's needed for their communications. Previously, today, about 5 p.m., Councilmember Brown asked me about the cost of the contract before you tonight. If you actually, I went through and actually, if you isolate the actual design of the station, it's about $211,000. There's about $32,000 identified for the driveway, which is broken out separately in that price breakdown. So that's going to be a 50-50 split between the town and Chaparral City Water. We had originally just thought of a standard curb cut going in. And then there's about $57,000 in construction phase services that the architect has to do. They'll be attending weekly meetings for approximately 8 months, and we're also asking them to do some construction on-site observations and do weekly reports as well. So that's in there. And then we threw in a $15,000 owner's allowance. If something comes up that we weren't aware of that creates additional design, then we'll have that money available so we don't have to come back to council. And that only gets used at the town's request. So the overall contract is $315,000. That includes the allowances I talked about, the construction, and that's really estimated at about 10% of the overall cost of the construction of the project. So that's within parameters. We also looked at the hourly rates provided by Hunt and Caraway, compared them to the architectural contract that we had on the Fire Station 1 renovation. They fall pretty much in line. used my contacts at the town of Gilbert for their recent fire station that the town manager and myself and the fire department went and toured, and the architectural rates fall right within line. So happy to answer any questions.
Excuse me, Mayor, if I may just add to something the director added earlier, and that is the outreach is going to be something that we don't typically do, but because of concerns raised by the adjacent neighborhoods, when we had the public meetings, I committed to design charrettes. So that's more than just, listening to people. It's actually coming up with alternative designs based on what the citizen input is. And so we're going to actually have the citizens actively engaged in providing input, not only on what they like to see and what they don't want to see, but also on some design concepts as well. So I think we're going the extra mile on this.
So you're talking about an open house for...
Exactly, and working with architects and trying to draw up kind of some concepts like maybe architectural styles and amenities that they'd like to see.
Okay. Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Paul, thank you for your explanation, good explanation. I am still not totally comfortable with the number, and you've done an excellent job explaining it, but I would personally like a little more time to meet with you and to understand how we had a contract for the Shea project at about $143,000, and we're up to $315,000. Even if the project was double in size, which it wouldn't be, and the Shea project was a tougher site to build on. I don't have my arms around it, Paul, and I would personally like to not vote on this tonight. I would personally like to table it and maybe bring it up back in 2 weeks, to where you and I could sit down and really get my arms around it, because I'm not comfortable with 315.
Mayor, Councilmember Brown, just to expand on your question, the site on Shea was 6,000 square feet. This one is 9,000 square feet. The original design on Shea was 114,000. To site adapt that design to this site was an additional $137,000, and then there was an additional $29,000 for the construction administration portion. So that gets you to $280,000. So you're pretty close, and then we add in that $15,000 owner's allowance, and we add in the $32,000 for the design of the driveway that was never anticipated going with EPCOR. So those numbers kind of balance out.
Mayor,
Are we happy to sit down with you and talk about
it? But if we're going to take one that's 8 years old for $143,000, and then spend another $138 to revamp just that drawing, makes no sense to me. So I don't have my arms around it. I'm not comfortable spending $315,000 today, and I'm only one of 7 here. So I'm just
Mayor,
speaking.
if I may, I think we'd be happy to do this. What does this do to the project schedule? It's just 2 weeks we're only talking about, right, Paul? So
Yeah,
I think we'd be happy to sit down with you and try to get your arms around this and try to have more comfort when we bring this back.
I appreciate that.
Councilman Yates?
I would tend to agree. Councilman Brown's a builder, I'm a developer, but this kind of brings me back to, and I don't know if this is a policy issue on these type of projects, but request for qualifications versus lowest qualified bid. Please explain why we need to go that route versus the lowest bid.
Mayor Cabinet, Councilmember Yates, just to put it plainly, it's against the state law.
We're not allowed to go.
You're not allowed to factor in price for the selection of architectural and engineering firms.
Let me rephrase the question. Under the RFQ process, you're absolutely correct. But can't we set our own parameters as to, this is what we considered a qualifying firm, who's got the best bid?
Mayor Cabinet, yeah.
That's probably one for me. Madam Mayor, Councilmember Yates, in procuring any architect, engineer, or any of the other listed professions in the statutes, you are not allowed to ask for price in any way, shape, or form. The criteria that you have to use to evaluate them have to be set forth in the RFQ. So it's a up front, this is the way you're going to be scored, and then those proposals are scored accordingly, and then you are only allowed to go and work with the top scoring firm. But under no circumstances is the town allowed to skirt the state law that requires you to select only based upon qualifications. Go ahead, you want to take?
It's a little bit like Obamacare. You're going to have to vote on it, but you don't get to read it. Okay? That's the easiest way to explain it.
And to maybe help explain, Cecil, I think that where you're coming from is we had one firm that submitted the pricing, so we didn't have from the 3 finalists pricing. So that wasn't something that was taken into consideration. It's just from the one firm.
I have nothing against Hunt and Caraway, none at all. It's just when you see some numbers like this, having done some projects, no, I've never built or developed a fire station. I won't even attempt to say that. But this brings me back to when we did the park. You know, Mayor Kavanaugh and Senator Kavanaugh, Dennis and myself went down to the legislature and said, what can we do for a small municipality like ours who doesn't have an exorbitant amount of money? How do we do this? And all the lobbyists came in and they basically gave us some ideas. And we used one of those ideas to basically, I'm not saying skirt, but work within the system instead of getting the largest, best, biggest, by all means, these guys are qualified, but I'm looking at a $325,000 bid to design a building. I hear what you're saying, and within that realm of expertise in those guys in that upper echelon of design, by all means, their rates are fine. I'm back to knowing who we are and that we don't have any money. How do we do this? How do we make this work?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Yates, I can't be any clearer about this. The state law prohibits you from selecting architects, engineers, or anybody else on that list through a process that requires them to submit price. That is, without question, the law for every city and town in the state, regardless of size. Title 34 is a matter of statewide concern that applies to everyone. The only way to change that is to get the law changed. And all that's happened with that law lately is that the list has gotten longer and the people that we can only select by qualifications. There is no other answer that we can give you. That is the law.
You have to go through RFP, and if it's...
You have to go through an RFQ.
RFQ, I apologize.
Qualifications only.
All right.
Councilman DePorter.
I'm going to ask a naive, non-builder, non-developer question. How couldn't we, for $211,000, not hire an architect to work for the town full-time? I know I knew that was a naive question. But just to work for the town, be a full-time town employee. Because if when City of Phoenix builds a fire station, for example, do they contract out or do they use city? Is there such thing as a city architect?
Virtually no city or town has that as a discipline on staff. A lot of cities and towns have engineers that do this kind of work that will, they'll get one set of plans and they'll build from that for a very long time and they'll just engineer the site to it. But nobody has in-house architects.
It's cheaper.
Absolutely. And the problem that you have too is that under the state statute, and this might be where you're going with this, Councilmember Yates, is you have a direct selection option up to a certain threshold, but you're over that threshold. If this project were a little cheaper, not quite as expensive, you could get
Can
there.
we do phase 1, phase 2, the garage first? I'm sorry.
All right.
The statutes are pretty clear that you shall not break up a procurement to avoid the statute.
Councilwoman Hanson.
Going back to something Paul said, I mean, when that last plan was done, that was a number of years ago. So we know right off the bat the price is going to be higher. Nothing gets cheaper. And also, that building wasn't the most desirable plan. It had to be munched and crunched to fit that site that really wasn't conducive to what our guys really needed. This one is, and so there's really no way to take the previous plan and adapt it, because who would want to? Because there were things about it that, just were not the best plan. So, I mean, I can see where the prices could go up and that we kind of have to look at the previous plan as the spilt milk thing, because it's really not anything that could be adapted to this site and that we would really want to adapt to this site.
Well, it seems that if we wait 2 weeks, it's not going to be, everybody's got a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. I think we need the 2 weeks to get all of our questions answered, and so that everybody is satisfied and that we're doing the right thing, because it is a lot of money, taxpayer money, and if 2 weeks isn't going to make that big a difference to getting this done, then I suggest we go ahead with Councilman Brown's suggestion and
Was that a motion, Council?
table this for the next meeting. Did you
I'll second.
A second. Okay, so just to table it for 2 weeks, and then we'll all come back satisfied that all our questions are answered. I think that's the best thing to do. All right? And so, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. Thank you, Paul. All right, where are we? Let's see. Consideration of approving Resolution 2016-05 of accepting membership in the Arizona Metropolitan Trust. Brady?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, the item before you is a request for consideration of becoming members in the Arizona Metropolitan Trust. About a year ago, when I was in my previous position, I was looking at ways of trying to improve our benefits while trying to minimize our costs. Since David Trimble, our Administrative Services Director, came on, he had some additional time to spend in evaluating various different options relating to our employee benefits program. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him, but the major concern that I have going forward with our current provider is we've been with them going on, if we go into the next contract year, it will be approximately 3.5, almost 4 years. And we've had increases of 16% up to this year, and then next year they propose a 2% increase. So 18% just on the medical care alone. And a lot of it has to do with, in the particular pool, there had been some major losses, catastrophic losses from some of the members that are in that pool, but we were affected by that. This is a pool that's been around, or a trust that's been around for about 4 years. What is proposed with this particular group is that they will assume all of the various different benefits and will have one open enrollment period for all of our employees, rather than having all these multiple overlapping open enrollment periods over the years. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, since the establishment of the Arizona Metropolitan Trust almost 5 years ago, they have been able to manage to keep their costs at almost zero increases since that time. So this is a way of cost containing our health insurance and other major benefits. And the other thing that's different about this particular program versus the one that we're currently in is all the members are up in the Verde Valley area, the Cottonwood and that area. This is most of the members are in the valley here or include Pinal County or Apache Junction. So it has some more significantly sized communities who help, I think, with trying to keep the more of a stable type of insurance program. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Trimble.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll try to be brief. I know your packet had a lot of information, and I'll try to keep it under 45 minutes. Is that okay? Be a lot less than that. But I did want to highlight some of the things, and Town Manager did a great job of introduction there. This would be primarily to change over for the medical, dental, and vision for our employees. As you know, benefits are a big part of attracting and retaining employees, the best employees. Let's see. We currently have 43 eligible employees that would be affected by this change. The town, for instance, was slated to pay out approximately $400,000 for these benefits. And with this change, the town would save approximately $100,000. So that expenditure would be $300,000. And the thing that's nice about that is it's not a one and done expenditure. It would be an ongoing savings each year. So good news about, healthcare costs. You don't hear that much. So this is a way to help the town with some of its financial challenges. And the other side of the coin is to the employee benefits will be top-notch with medical provided by the largest network in the state, Blue Cross Blue Shield network. So we'll retain that. Dental will be provided through Delta Dental, and then vision through VSP. Trying to think of other highlights here. Grady touched on the administrative advantages of having a single open enrollment. Right now we do this 3 or 4 times. It's a big challenge for not only the administration side, but the employees. So we're looking forward to consolidating and making things a lot more efficient. We realize this will be a big change on the administrative side. We don't think it'll affect negatively on the employees. And so we tentatively, in order to roll this out, have some meetings planned. In fact, Jamie Schollenberg from the trust is here, and she can assist in answering any questions that you may have. So with that, I'll open it up for your questions.
Any questions? Councilman Magazine?
How will this affect, or will it affect, the out-of-pocket costs of employees?
Mayor, Council, most employees will see a positive change for their out-of-pocket costs. I can't say that about all, but the numbers break down. Currently 21 employees pay 0. Employee only for the town pays 0. That's a very good thing. It's kind of going away in our industry. Most places you work, you have to bring some money to the table for your monthly premiums. Employees here, if they're on their own, pay 0. So 21 would continue to pay 0. 12 would pay actually less. And then 6, I've calculated that would probably pay more, slightly, out of pocket. So overall, 33 are not affected or helped. 6 employees would probably pay more.
And if I could just add, the out-of-pocket is really the premium sharing in the premium costs. So right now, we have 2 plans. We're offering 2 plans in this. The plans are very similar to what we currently have, but what is different is we have the PPO plan in this new group is considerably less expensive than the PPO plan which we currently have, and then the high deductible plan in the new group is considerably higher. And as a result of that, right now the town contributes a significant portion towards the employee's share of the health savings account, which is part of the high deductible plan. With this, we would not be able to do that per the agreement that we have with the new group, the trust. They've basically indicated we would not be able to pay or contribute any more than 50% towards the employee's share of the health savings account. But what we're proposing tonight, and that's why this is different than what we have currently, is that cost would be considerably lower for the town. We've been basically, for the single employees or those have just employee-only coverage, we've been basically putting in their health savings account. We've been paying 100% of their premium, and then we're also putting $2,600 into a health savings account, which is like a savings account that you can use to pay for your medical costs. It's very unusual. The new trust has told us that the actuaries that just is unheard of in the industry. You don't typically provide, that's not providing incentive for employees to ration their health care. It's just having the opposite effect. So anyways, that is what's going to be different about this. Our deductibles under the new plans They're actually lower than what we have with both plans right now. And the plan benefits are actually just a little bit richer. For instance, in the high deductible plan right now, once you reach your deductible, then you go on and it's an 80-20 kind of share arrangement on your health care costs. Under this plan, it goes from 80-20 to once you meet your deductible, then you're pretty much at, you know, like no out-of-pocket costs. So it's a big difference there. But the major difference with this is the health savings accounts that we've been contributing to would not be at the same level that we've been contributing to in the past. And there would be, for those people that are going into this, there's a number of people that have been contributing to health savings accounts on their own, and for most people, we think they'll go into the PPO plan, and that will then be the money they've been putting aside on their own will basically cover their premium costs. So I think that was all but, was it like 3 people in that situation?
Yeah, there's, I think, a total of maybe a handful, like 6.
Right.
In that situation.
One more question, Mayor.
Councilman Magazine?
You get like 12 that'll be paying less, 6 more, 21 the same. Is that based upon classification? Is that based upon salary, or how is that determined?
We have, everyone is treated the same in the organization, including even with my contract. It's exactly what the employees have as far as the town's portion that they contribute on their behalf to the medical plan. So in other places I've worked before, you know, the executive team or management might get a higher dollar amount than, say, maybe the collective bargaining units. It's not that way here at all. Everybody is on the same level as far as what the town contributes towards their benefits.
I won't pursue that. Just one more question. Is there a catastrophic part of this plan?
That might be a good Jamie question for.
Well, let's see, catastrophic in terms of protection for you in case your employees have high dollar claims?
No,
Or
catastrophic.
protection for the trust?
Catastrophic for the individual.
For the individual, there are maximum out-of-pockets on all of our plans, yes.
Maximum out of pockets,
Yes.
at which point,
Everything
whatever.
is covered, all eligible expenses would be covered in 100%.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other questions? If not? All right. Thanks, Dave. Can I get a motion? Somebody?
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2016-05 related to employee health and life benefits.
Second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
There's 6-0.
Okay. Anybody have anything from the legislature? I don't. Okay. Directions to town manager, I think we did that. We directed something. Now, activities, you go first?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah, take it.
last night was the wonderful, what do we call it, Roaring Twenties event in honor of all the Fountain Hill volunteers. And as I was teasing our town manager Grady, in order to operate a town of our size at the level, it helps that we have almost 800 volunteers working for free, and it was a tremendous event. The mayor, myself, and Grady attended on behalf of the council. All the staff was there. Heather Ware, what a tremendous job she did putting the event together. Skit performers included our own Mike Ciccarone, Gracie Rodman Getter, Corey Povar, and the awards that went out were for Best Volunteer at the Activity Center was Jim Judge, Parks and Rec was Stephanie Beck, Community Center was Maxine Maureen, Administration with Kathy Haynes, Finance was Sandy Schmidt, with the courts was Terry Zimmerman, and the Extraordinary Volunteer of the Year was, Extraordinary Volunteer was Jim Sims, and the Outstanding Community Service Award went to the Trailblazers, headed up by Bill Craig and Bill Myers. And of course, the Mayor's Youth Council was there, and the Volunteer of the Year was Jim Judge.
Wow.
And it was a tremendous event.
Yeah, congratulations to all the winners, and they're just top-notch volunteers. We couldn't do it without you. And anybody else? I have a couple of things. Young families with kids filled Golden Eagle Park on March 24th for the town's annual Extravaganza. The event this year was sponsored by the town, the Goyenna Real Estate Team, and Republic Services Trash Collector. Big thank you to all the volunteers, including my own Senator Kavanaugh, our announcer, Raj Watson, who was Clucky the Chicken this year. Staff coordinator for the event, Angelica Giardino, did an outstanding job with help from the Park and Rec staff. Corey, Grace, Rachel, and Director Mark Mayer was there. Of course, I was there somewhere. While we're on the subject of our wonderful Parks and Rec department, they put on an awesome movie in the park. The park was filled with families, with kids, and it was easy to see that everyone was having a great fun evening. I know we did, along with my son and my grandson, and I want to thank staff member Corey Povar for working that event so well. Then we also attended the Easter sunrise service in Fountain Park, which was once again a great morning. Hillside along the amphitheater was filled. Pastor Tony Pierce of the First Baptist Church delivered an awesome Easter message. Canned food was collected for the Extended Hands Food Bank, as it is every year. The River of Time Museum held its annual Hall of Fame Awards. Congratulations to all the new Hall of Fame inductees, especially our own town residents, Christine Colley, Roger Riggert, Dory Wittrig, and Dr. C.T. Wright. Resident artist and old-time cowboy Carlos Hathaway received the Legacy Award for his lifetime dedication to the Low Verde Valley. And the last event that John and I attended was a luncheon fundraiser for the Arizona Humane Society. Great afternoon, over 1,000 people attended. We raised a ton of money and adopted out some dogs, cats, and even one guinea pig. Money raised from this event will go towards surgeries for the many pets they take in that have injuries. Then there's rehabilitation and adoption. Senator Kavanaugh has received the Legislative Humane Society Award, the Humane Award, for the past 2 years, all for his support for animal causes. And I know we all support animal causes and love all the groups that are here in Fountain Hills. That's something we can all agree on. And with that, I'm done. So, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. And all in favor?
Aye.
And no one's opposed, I'm sure. Okay. Thanks.